G'day, how you doing? Adam Williams here from Easy Wave Photography. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you my absolute favourite technique for adding impact to specific areas of our images. The technique is called split tone contrast, and you're absolutely going to love it, I'm sure. So let's jump in and open up a file. And here we have a rather simple image of this granite boulder on the south coast of Western Australia, and it's going to make the perfect example to show you the power and impact of the split tone contrast technique. So let's jump straight in and take a look. It's a very simple technique based on a curves layer. So let's move down to the adjustment layers icon, the little black and white circle below the layer panel there. Click on there and select curves. And you'll see we now have the curves property menu, and at the very top left above the graph, to the top left of the graph, we have this little hand icon with an up and down arrow. Click on that and then drag back onto your image, and you'll notice we now have a color picker icon instead of the standard mouse arrow. Just there, that little color picker icon. And if you now look up at the curves graph, you'll see a little circular icon, a little pixel icon dancing up and down the curves graph there. Now if I hover over somewhere particularly bright, you can see that little pixel icon goes right up to the high white side there, and if I hover over something particularly dark, you can see that little pixel icon is right down in the darks there. Now this is particularly handy for adding contrast to specific areas. And as we know, contrast adds impact and contrast draws the eye. So if we want to add impact to a specific area, we can now find out exactly where the light point and the dark point of that particular area is and target the contrast into that area. Okay, so if we hover over this rock where we want to add a whole bunch of contrast and really boost the impact of our main subject of this image, if we hover over that rock, you can see that pixel dancing up and down that graph. So as I move back and forth, just keep an eye on that graph and you'll get a bit of an idea of where the darks are. So the lowest point that pixel bounces to, which is around about here roughly. So I'll place one dot there, and then I'll move back and hover over that area again, and we're now looking for the highest point or the lightest tone within this rock surface. Okay, and I think it's roughly about there. We don't have to be super accurate. As long as we're relatively close with this technique, it's going to work in any case. Now, generally with this technique, we move the higher pixel or the light point up more than we move the dark point down. In fact, a lot of the time the dark point stays exactly where it is. So let's click on that lighter point and begin to drag that up. Just like so. And again, I think in this case, the dark point can stay exactly where it is. As we would with any other normal layer, we press Command or Control I to invert that layer mask. B for brush. I'm going to press X on the keyboard to switch to my white brush there. And with around about a 30-30 brush, 30% opacity and 30% flow, just going to make a rather small brush here and begin to paint in that very targeted, specific contrast into that area of the rock there. And you can see it's having a massive effect, giving this rock much more impact. As I turn this layer off, the split tone contrast layer off, you can see before and after. It's just an absolutely massive improvement on the impact of that rock there. And you can see that targeted contrast has really given that subject a whole bunch more wow factor that wasn't there before. And after there. This technique will work on a whole range of different landscape photography textures and subjects, dry grasses, wet rocks, the sunlit effect when the sun's lighting up wet rocks, reflections in the water, structure in the whitewash of the water, all of these great things when we target the specific contrast or the specific tones within those specific areas and then adjust the contrast accordingly to those areas. You'll see that you do need to be a little bit careful and pretty much always need to mask this in, because if I hold Shift down and disable the mask here, you'll see it does some pretty radical things to the sky and the sand that we don't really want. However, when I hold Shift down and re-enable that mask, you can see as we turn that on and off that it has the desired effect on that rock surface there which we were targeting. I hope you really get a lot out of this technique. As I said, it's one of my absolute favorites. I use it all the time for adding impact to specific areas of my image. Thank you once again for watching along, and I look forward to seeing you at the next tutorial. Bye for now.